When you're struggling to survive, you're struggling to dream. I heard that quote about what kids in foster care face. It makes so much sense. You know, we look at these kids who are struggling. We see them every day, whether they're in foster care, whether their parents are trying as hard as they can, and we think, they're struggling, and then we move on, right? But what is foster care about? There's so many kids who are struggling to survive, and they need someone to step up and help them learn how to dream, teach them how to dream, right? Because we we want to give them a chance, give them a shot. No, these kids in foster care, sometimes they need foster parents in their lives for a couple of weeks, a couple of months, maybe forever. You know, we when we think of foster kids so much, we think of these young, cute kids who are just never have a chance, and that is a lot of them, right? But so many of them are 14, 15, 16 years old, 17 years old, about ready to age out of the system. They've been in the system. And part of the reason that they've been in the system so long is because they haven't found that right person to teach them how to dream, to help them with that forward thinking thought process, because all they've ever known is how to survive today, right? They can't worry about tomorrow when today is such a struggle. And that's why there's so much of a need for people in the lives of these kids that are struggling. What doesn't matter if they're 2 or 3 years old or if they're 15, 16, 17 years old, but ready to move on to the next steps in their life. Um, as you know, I've been doing foster care for just under 4 years, and yes, we did adopt. We did adopt 4 children out of it, so we're kind of in our taking a break phase for now, anyway. But along the way, professionally, I met other kids who are in the foster care system who need those people in their lives to teach them to dream. I was able to help one or two professionally find some better options for them, and the fulfillment that gave me was just amazing. Now, part of being a foster parent is also helping and encouraging the biological parents of these kids that we're taking care of, trying to help them to succeed, encouraging them as much as possible. Um, Sarah and I have taken care of some amazing kids. We've met some amazing parents. We've met some parents who don't want to talk to us anymore, and that's okay. Um, because our biggest concern along the way is trying to encourage as many people as possible to succeed, right? We don't want we don't get into foster care because it's a selfish thing to do. Doing foster care is one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life, but it's also the most fulfilling thing we've ever done. Um, 10 years ago, I would have never thought. I barely knew anything about what foster care was. And here I am 10 years later. We've been doing foster care for, like I said, just under 4 years now. We have had 10, 11 kids come and stay in our home for some uh, as short as a day, others as long as, well, forever, right? But it doesn't matter how long they're with us, whether saying goodbye is they hate us, whether saying goodbye is they don't want to say goodbye, but they but saying goodbye is what needs to happen, at least for now. Sarah and I wouldn't change anything. We wouldn't go back and not help take care of other people's kids. When I talk to other people about foster care, they always say, well, I hope to do that. I think that's so awesome. I want to do that when I'm older, or I would get too attached. I just can't do it. Or there's a lot of reasons, and some of them are legitimate. A lot of them are. But I guess after doing it for 4 years now, the thing that always comes back to me about why have done it as long as we did, is because, as adults, we can take the emotional heartache, right? Most of us have the emotional capacity to recover from pain and heartbreak and struggles and frustrations. But these kids, right? They haven't gotten there yet. And they need someone to love them, to look after them, to want what's best for them for as long a time as it's needed. For some kids, it's a few days. For some kids, it's the rest of their life, right? Saying goodbye to these kids that we've had to say goodbye to was painful, but it had its rewards in its own way, because if we were saying goodbye, that means that the parents of these kids are doing something right. And that's exciting as well, because no kid should have to see their parents struggle, right? No kid should have to see no kid should have to go through the trauma. Being ripped away, being put into foster care and taken away from your parents is so traumatizing. It is. You can be going into the best foster parent situation ever, and it's still traumatizing. It's still a traumatizing event for these kids. And some kids have had this happen 2, 3, 4 times, right? So having the blessing to be able to be there for as many kids as we have in the short amount of time that we've done it, is just amazing. There's no other way to put it. I haven't regretted a single moment of it. We've shed some tears. I've made a million mistakes along the way, but I would never go back and undo what we've done. And I'll never stop encouraging people to become a foster parent, because as hard as it is to do it, and as many meetings and as many counseling sessions, many extra doctor's appointments as we've had to go through, finding daycare, finding everything that we've had to do to be there for these kids. Being there for these kids is what these kids need. They need someone to hold them when they're screaming at night, to be there when they're wanting their mom or their dad, and who will love them when they're asking for their mom or their dad, because they haven't seen them for a year or 2 years or however long it's been, and they don't get why, right? These kids need someone there for them. And maybe it's you, maybe it's not. And if it's not, that's okay. But I know there's a lot of people out there who can be that person, who want to be that person, who are just kind of scared to take that next step, scared to take that leap. Don't be scared, right? You can do it. And the reward for doing it is just, I think I've said the word a couple of times. It's amazing. It's amazing.